Hello and welcome to another IGTV episode. I am Leah Courtney from aswewalkalongtheroad.com, and I am excited to be here after the holidays for another episode in my Homeschooling the First Years and Beyond series. So we took a break over the holiday season. I figured that probably many of you were taking homeschooling breaks. People are traveling. People are doing all kinds of things for the holidays. So we are back now. If you haven't seen the other episodes in the series, scroll down in my IGTV profile and you can find those, because this is a whole series devoted to episodes that are specifically designed to help new or fairly new homeschooling mamas. So I would love for you to scroll down and find all the episodes and watch these. And it really doesn't matter if you're watching them in order, so you can go ahead and watch today's and then scroll down and find the others later. Before I start this episode, I also wanted to say that I have a brand new ebook for homeschooling moms that is free at aswewalkalongtheroad.com. It's called The Less Stress Homeschool, and it's all about getting started homeschooling simply and with less stress. So if that sounds good to you, make sure that you go and pick up that free book, and you can find it at the link in my profile. There's a section that says resources for new homeschooling moms, and that's where you can find the Less Stress Homeschool. So go ahead and do that if you are a new homeschooling mom. So today's episode is going to be all about choosing homeschool curricula. And I'm going to give you 4 things to think about and consider when you're choosing your curricula. Now, first of all, I have to say there are so many curricula choices for homeschoolers, and it can seem really, really overwhelming. And it's funny because I've talked to people who were homeschooled, people my age who were homeschooled back in the day, and they talk about what a difference there is, because back when homeschooling was first really getting going, you couldn't just buy curricula. The only kind of curriculum companies there were the ones who provided curricula for public and private schools, and many of those would not sell to individual families. And so it was very hard to actually find curricula. And I know a lot of people whose moms relied solely on things they could find in the library for their homeschool curricula. But now it's so different because we have so many choices, and it can be really overwhelming to try to figure out what's the best option for your family. So I'm going to give you 4 things to think about as you're choosing your curricula. And before I do, this is not really one of those 4 things to think about, but here's sort of an overarching idea that you need to keep in mind. Just because a curriculum is great for somebody else you know does not mean it's going to be great for you. I've gotten sucked into that many times. I'll listen to a friend describe a curriculum, and I'm like, well, we don't really need to change curriculums, but I just have to, because that must be wonderful, and I'll change, and then I'm like, this just doesn't work for us. It just fell flat. So don't think that just because somebody else loves this curriculum that you need to try it. You consider these 4 things and think about whether it really fits for your family. So the first thing that I would tell you to consider is to consider how your children learn best. Now, you can do a whole bunch of research on learning styles, and it's very interesting to do that. So you could do a Google search for learning styles and find out a whole bunch about how to determine your child's learning style. But just from a basic point of view, think about what activities your child learns best by doing. Can they read material and learn well? Can they hear an audio and learn well? Can they watch a video and learn well? Do they need to be doing something hands-on, like experiments and projects? Just think about how your child learns the best, how your children learn the best, because that's going to help you as you look for curriculum. Are you going to look for something that is video-based or audio-based or visual, like a textbook? Think about how your kids learn. The second thing I would urge you to consider is to think about how you teach the best. What is your style of teaching and learning? Maybe you need a lot of structure. And if that's the case, maybe you need to go for a more structured curriculum. Maybe you do better if you have more flexibility. Maybe you're really creative, and so you're excited about creating curriculum on your own, maybe taking something as a spine and then being able to come up with the activities that go along with it. So think about how you are going to teach best, because that really matters. And if you're not sold on the style of your curriculum, then it probably is going to fall flat for your kids too. In our homeschool, I don't love textbooks. I just don't. And the times that I've tried to use a textbook for whatever reason, I end up in the middle of the semester or a few months in, and I'm just done with the curriculum. And I can't really sell it to the kids then by saying, oh, look, we're going to have so much fun doing this subject, because I'm not having fun. So think about how you teach as well. Then I also urge you to consider, what is your goal long term? Are you homeschooling forever? Do you know that you're going to homeschool all the way through 12th grade? Kids are going to graduate. Or are you homeschooling year by year with the intent that your kids may go to school at some point? Because that is going to affect the kind of curriculum you choose. If you know for a fact or are pretty sure that at some point your kids are going to go to school, then you're going to want your curriculum to match what they're going to be learning when they transition to traditional school. That way they're not going to transition in having only done maybe this really loose, flexible learning and maybe unit studies or some kind of gentle curriculum that it's not a lot of structure. They're not necessarily doing anything that is grade leveled. And then if they have to go from that to maybe middle school in a traditional school, it's not going to be an easy transition. So also think about what you're doing for the long term when you're choosing curriculum. And then the last consideration, and this is one that I don't like, and maybe you won't like either, but consider your budget. And this is important because there's so many good choices out there. There's so many things that you could do that sometimes we get that shiny new curriculum syndrome, and we want to go and try all these different things, and this looks wonderful, and I've read 50 blog posts about it, and everybody's saying how good it is, so I know I have to have it, but it's going to be like $500 for all my kids, and we just don't have that kind of money budgeted for homeschool curriculum. Then don't do it. Step away, look at something else, look at something that fits your budget. I know that that's hard to do. That's one of the hardest things for me, but consider your budget when you're choosing your curriculum, because that's going to mean a lot less stress for your whole family if you will stick within your budget. So those are the 4 things that I would urge you to consider as you are choosing your homeschooling curriculum. I am glad that you watched. Again, make sure you scroll down and find the other episodes in this series. If you have questions or comments about choosing curriculum, I'd love for you to leave those here in the thread, and I'll be glad to answer those, or shoot me a private message and I'll be glad to answer your questions that way as well. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next week for next week's episode.